working on Sunday night? You and Judy, I tell you.
Not normally, they even have a lot to do, and then I came in early this morning, and I still didn't get it all done. Greg, can you hear us? And Charlie?
Yes, I can. Can you hear us?
You can.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Click on there.
Charlie, go ahead.
It's like on there. Because you're in the lobby. Oh, there shouldn't be a lobby. Hang on, go check.
Charlie, are you there?
Yes.
They're running out of weather. But people's hoping to do it.
Actually, I don't see.
This when this early votes.
Here, I'm just gonna,
There's some guys who worked
I'm just gonna.
Friday all day and.
I can invite her again, but I don't see anybody in the lobby.
One guy said.
Yeah, because we're waiting on Lisa, right?
Yeah, we weren't sure if she was gonna be here for the time because of the timing, but
Well, I think they're giving it the option if they don't go.
I'll just call, I can invite her.
They told us right in front of every 3 years. So. After a year, older after a year. Yeah. Still waiting on Lisa.
Well, I think
The timing, we weren't sure if she was gonna be able to be.
After. Still there. Still over my.
John and John, let's try again. Go to Zoom. She's on stage with them.
No, it's Zoom.
Now, you guys are spaced out. You're not worried about the horse flu, right?
No, I don't think so.
There was.
Sorry, wrong number, sorry. Wrong color, Dang it. Hang on, I'm just gonna bring up my cell phone.
In my calendar entry on my phone is the Teams one.
That's,
I can't find it. I can't find this one.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you're on speaker, so you're good.
Good morning.
Morning.
Do you want me to begin?
If you want to, that'd be lovely.
Thank you. Apologies, everyone. My name is Lisa Lee with Ice Miller. We're serving as special counsel to the Redevelopment Commission. And we are here today to continue the creation of the Petersburg Energy Economic Development Area and 2 tax allocation areas known as the PEC Solar Allocation Area and the PEC Battery Allocation Area. The Redevelopment Commission on November 10th adopted what we refer to as a declaratory resolution that started that process. It set forth the map of the 2 allocation areas, and then it provided an economic development plan with a various list of projects. And then notice was published of today's public hearing, and a tax impact statement was also sent to all the overlapping taxing units. So today we are here to hear from the public, pro or con, answer questions, and also if there are any officers of any of the taxing units in the audience, we are here to hear from them as well. Once the public hearing has been concluded, the Redevelopment Commission has a resolution that proposes right now to modify and confirm the original declaratory resolution. The only modification being to add the construction and equipping of park and recreation facilities and improvements to the economic development plan. Otherwise, the declaratory as adopted on November 10th would be confirmed by that resolution. And with that, you can open the public hearing unless you have questions from me on this.
No, that's okay. I'll go back and, first item on the agenda here is the approval of the minutes of the November 10 meeting. Everybody looked at that? If so, I would, accept a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion, sorry.
Is there a second?
I second.
Eric, Mark and Eric, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. 4-0. Okay, I would accept a motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Make a motion.
Second, motion by Eric, second by Mark to open the public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried 4-0. Okay, the audience looks rather sparse. Suzanne, you're up if you want.
Do you want me to move up my motion? If you could move up, sorry. I know how everybody feels. Yeah, I know. It won't pick up from back there.
And I did not necessarily intend to speak. I don't have any, concerns that I, know of to address. I do want to thank you, in Exhibit B with part of the Economic Development Plan, where you have the project description, the bulleted items. So the top of, I think it would be considered the third page of that, the bulleted items finish, and the last two do note funding of educational programs under IC 36-7-25-7. And then, and list a couple items, and then the last bulleted item, funding qualifying school corporation capital projects. Did of course seek legal opinion for our perspective as well. They did, commend the redevelopment commission for, their desire to work on together with school corporations. So that does not always happen. So they want to be sure that I understood what you guys are doing, and helping try and partner with us on items. So they felt like the language that was there, those bulleted items, help convey the plan to partner and work together. They said in terms of going forward, we can do an annual letter requesting, some financial support for items, projects. We can do it as a year-to-year basis. We did not have to partner and commit on a project right now, prior to the resolution being approved. So that seems to be the best option to give us the most flexibility, both from probably your standpoint and the schools. So with all that, I guess my main thing is to say thank you for the awareness, and in trying to figure out a way for all of us to move together for the school and our community. So.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments?
Yeah, I got a couple. So this has to come before the commissioners and council. Okay. So who's gonna come in and explain what we're doing here? Who will do this?
I think it'd be good if Wednesday could.
Yeah.
Call in early at the next commissioners
Okay.
meeting.
So,
Lisa, would you be able to do that at the next commissioners meeting?
At the next redevelopment commission or?
No, for the commissioners, when they, do the final approval on it.
Be there in person?
No, right, just.
What time is that meeting?
It would
Sorry,
be-
I have another 9 o'clock on that date.
It's 8:30 on the 15th.
8:30? Yes, I could be virtual at 8:30 on the 15th.
okay. And then the question may come up, and I may be the one to ask that question. Please, I'm sorry, this is Mark Flynn.
Yes, sir.
What is,
I apologize, I didn't hear the question.
I will
I
read
have-
it for you in case you.
okay, so the question I've got is that, you know, what, are they a downside to the residents of Pike County? And if there is a downside, what is that downside? Or is it a pro, is it a con? What would it be for the residents of Pike County? Did they see anything?
Is Charlie Joyce on here as well? Just
Yes.
want to make sure. Okay. And Charlie, please feel free to jump in here. But the first thing I think that's the redevelopment commission is trying to accomplish here is to help with what could be wildly fluctuating tax rates. Because the battery and the solar types of projects, they are utility distributable personal property. So they are self-reported and they depreciate very quickly. So the first year, there's going to be one value, it's going to jump up, assessed value. The next year, it's going to actually go a little higher. And then it's going to drop out over the next 3, 4, 5 years. So if you don't do anything as a redevelopment commission and you let that assessed value all flow through, it will lower tax rates. And so some of the taxing units that are seeing circuit breaker losses would get a little bit more revenue. But the tax rate, they wouldn't get as much more revenue as you will get if you capture a portion of the assessed value to then use in ways you have in your economic development plan. For example, the school corporation, the 15% towards programming up to the amount towards capital projects. So the average taxpayer will see a little bit of drop in their tax rate, but if they're already at the cap, the circuit breaker cap, they're not going to see any difference in their tax bill. You might actually have revenue as a county that you can use in a positive manner to help some of these taxing units. Charlie, do you want to go any deeper into that? Feel free.
Lisa, that's a great summary and we can do that. And it looked like Christy, you handed out maybe our 1-page summary of the impact. Is that right?
Is that what that's what I was getting was the summary, yes.
Okay, and I can share my screen if you let me do that. Or if you have a copy of that, I can just go through it.
They have a copy, I can't get the Zoom meeting to share in the room today.
Okay, no problem.
They have sound, they just don't have the video of the Zoom.
Okay. So if you've got that, kind of the top half of the schedule is what we estimate would happen if you decided to capture the assessed value. And like we've been talking about, the redevelopment commission would annually decide to capture the new assessed value or to pass it through. And that would have to be done by June 15th of each year. Page 26 is the first column there. And I'll just note that the solar farm actually has a $27 million assessed value for their project that's been in there and is in the tax calculation for pay 26. And there's a $36 million assessed value for the storage part of the project. So those two amounts we would leave in as the base. So everybody will enjoy that assessed value as long as it's there and not depreciated. So that'll be built into this. But what we've done in pay 27 is say what will possibly be assessed and available to capture. And those are new numbers. So the last time we spoke, we had an optimistic and we had kind of a pessimistic scenario. This is based on new information or updated information from AES. So it should be closer to what really will come in. But the solar, you can see 119, almost 120 million possibly captured and 64 million on the storage project. If we keep the same tax rate, and that's a big if there, but in this scenario, we're saying let's keep the 25 tax rate at 2.4932. Let's just assume we keep a flat tax rate. We would generate 4.6 million of TIF revenue in pay 27. So that's the possible benefit that the county, the RDC could capture that. The next line there is the most, it's the maximum 15% that you could give to the school corporation for education and training programs. That would be 691,000. The RDC would decide what to do on that. You don't have to do the max, but that's the most you could give the school for those programs. And then the bottom line there, 3.9 million, the RDC could use for other capital items, capital projects that are in that resolution that Lisa described. Now, part of that could be for school corporation projects, it could be for fire, it could be for roads. And it also, recent law change allows TIF revenue to be used for salaries, operating expenses for public safety, public police and fire. So those are also potential. So we scheduled that out. You can see in pay 28, that's when the biggest part of the assessed value could be captured. And then it depreciates very quickly after that. So we're saying by pay 31, most of this project could be depreciated, and the TIF revenue would not be there after that. So that's kind of the top part that shows you what could be captured. So any questions kind of on that top section? Okay, and so let's go to the bottom half of the page, and that's kind of, I think, where Mark was going about what we think would happen if we didn't do anything. And so that assumes that the assessed value would flow through to all the underlying taxing units. And really what would happen in the most part is you see that first line, estimated tax rate. So the 2.4932, that's the 25 tax rate. We're estimating in 2027 that tax rate would go to 1.97 because of the AV, and we're holding everything else constant. We're not assuming any other changes. It would go to 1.61, so pretty dramatic decrease. And then every year after that is a pretty large increase back up to where we started. So the idea here really behind this whole thing is let's keep our tax rate flat as best we can, or give us an option to do that, while at the same time capturing some new revenues for capital projects or other projects that we need to fund that the county or school has. So that's the difference between the two. Lisa described what the real impact to those units would be, and that would be a reduced amount of circuit breaker loss. And so in that 2027 year, we've estimated the county would get an extra 260,000 of property taxes because the circuit breaker loss would be reduced. The school has a very similar impact, about 270,000 of positive revenue if the county and the RDC doesn't do anything. And it's a similar calculation. The next year, it's a larger amount because the tax rate is lower. That would be the positive. And then there's two other funds. So most funds are capped by levy. So your property tax levy can normally go up by the growth quotient, if everybody knows what that is. So for 2026, the legislature allowed everybody to raise their levy by 4%. That doesn't mean you get more property taxes when new assessed value comes in, because the tax rate is capped based on the levy. So, but there are two funds that are capped by the tax rate, and that's the county CCD, Cum Cap Development Fund, and also the fire territory has an equipment fund that's capped by the tax rate. And so there are some possible reductions in revenue that they might have received if you didn't capture the assessed value. And so that's why we've got some numbers there at the bottom of what those revenues would be. So the county, 61,000 of CCD in that first year we wouldn't receive, the county wouldn't receive if we captured this assessed value. The fire territory would miss $46,000 of revenue. So that's kind of the summary of what we estimate currently would happen if the RDC doesn't capture any assessed value from this project. So tax rate would go down, circuit breaker loss would go down, and then we've got these other two funds that could have a little bit of loss of revenue from this. So any questions kind of on that second part of the page?
I think it's important for the commissioners meeting, that we show. I think 75% of people don't understand this, the residents won't understand it. Maybe 90% of people won't understand it, they do, they just think, well, here you go, you raised my taxes, you know, something. I think it's important to show what our tax rate currently is right now, estimated tax rate, and where it's going for the next 2 or 3 years, or whatever that is. And until it runs out, it's gonna go back up where it's at. I think it's important to show that. And I think it's important to, if we don't do this, this is what could happen. You know, I think that we're gonna have to do something like that in the meeting.
I think my question would be, could you run a couple scenarios of an actual taxpayer impact? Like, for myself, I hit my cap now, so it probably isn't gonna impact me. I'm still gonna pay about the same because I just won't be paying, I won't be getting the break for the tax cap. But say somebody that pays $3,000 in taxes normally, you know, what would be their, with the tax rate going down to the 1.9, 1.6, what would be their benefit, you know, their reduction, and then versus, you know, in a couple of years that they're gonna be back to their normal. Is there any way to run a couple scenarios? For
Yeah, we
actual-
can. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Yes.
And see what the actual impact is for that individual person. Cause it may not be as big as they think, or, you know, at least to show that it's only for a couple of years, and but, you know, versus what we're gonna gain if we tip it,
Yep, we can definitely do that. Yes.
at least to have on hand, maybe. In case somebody
Yep.
else.
Charlie, this is Greg Willis.
Yeah.
If our redevelopment commission said we want to capture 50%, I'm just throwing that out there. Would we just have all these numbers on this page? Would that be a fair assumption? Or would there be
Yes,
other impacts?
That's a good assumption, Greg. That would be correct.
So, you know, yeah, and we can do any percentage we want if we want to pass any of it through, 10%, 30%, 90%, anything. But we could use this to do our own math, basically.
Right, as a good estimate. Yes.
Okay.
I think in all the
And
money.
Charlie, Greg,
Yeah.
just to add, this is Greg. You would
okay.
do that finding each and every year. So when we start knowing the actual numbers before July 1, you could make it 1 year, you could make it X percent. The next year you could make it Y percent. So
Right.
having it this way, you will be able to manage it on an annual basis.
Yeah, the whole purpose for even going this direction, give us a lot of flexibility going forward. So I understand that, but again, the general public is gonna be hard to explain all of that to where there's a full understanding.
Okay, and guys, but correct me if I'm wrong. If we would do 50%, say then so for 27, and I may have my math wrong. But instead of then getting the 4.6 million, we could possibly capture about 2.3. But would it just impact exactly the same, like where the county and the school corp, so the school corp would go up that 50%, so instead of the 270, it would be approximately what, 410?
It would go the other way, Christy. That it
So
would,
they
the
would get like
270 would go to
112,000.
135.
It would go to 130.
Yeah, it would go down. Those are
They won't.
This is, you're talking,
That's if you don't. This is if you went to, you get the 260, 270.
Right, but if we pass through half, then wouldn't there? Money
you
go
would
up?
reduce that by half. Yeah, so the tax
Oh,
rate, the tax rate we've estimated, and that's if we pass through 100%, would go down to 1.97.
Okay,
If we did half, it's probably 2.25 as the tax rate. And that would reduce those circuit breaker. So we're saying
it's
there's
not
a benefit.
inversely proportionate, it's, yeah.
Yeah. But like the county, we're saying if we pass all of it through, the circuit breaker is reduced by 260,000. If we only pass half of it through, that probably goes down in half. So the 130,000 of reduction in circuit breaker loss.
But the potential is still much better if we capture it and then work with the school or the fire territories. Really, the only people that wouldn't see a benefit there would be your regular homeowners or anybody that we didn't work with.
The question on the homeowner that I
Be
have is
dedicated.
that, Charlie, can you just say, explain, because you walked us through with Christie and me. Even if the tax rate goes down, the assessed value is still higher and they're not actually getting a tax break.
Well, and it's going to be a case by case basis on that. But it's possible that a homeowner would be at the tax cap no matter what. They've got a 1% tax cap. So they may not have they might not see an impact if the tax rate goes down to 1.6184. They may still pay the same no matter what. So I think that's where we need to have a few real life examples so people can see what it really is, because it is so abstract, the concept to really get down to of how this impacts people. Where there always is an impact, or normally always is for commercial property. So if you've got a 3% tax cap, you're going to see your tax bill go down if the tax rate goes down, as we've shown here. So it could be a pretty substantial impact. But what we're trying to do is just not have that roller coaster of tax rate goes down by 25% and then it goes back up by 25%. We're trying to smooth that out. That's the idea behind this, is to have that possibility to
So I
keep the
guess
tax rate flat.
My question and my point was, and maybe I am wrong, maybe I'm misunderstanding this. Even if we captured the full 100% and then turned around and worked with the county, the townships, the fire, all of them, that what we think they would have gained with the tax rate dropping.
Yep.
We would still have
A net
huge
benefit.
amount of money to work with
Right.
that we wouldn't have if we just did nothing.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
And if we do nothing, they lose it. The bottom numbers are if we capture 100%.
Right.
We do nothing, those numbers are zero.
Okay, everybody clear?
That's mine.
Well, no,
we're gonna have, I'm sorry, Craig. We're gonna have the newspaper in there. Chances are it's not gonna get right, printed in the paper. It's just gonna be hard, and how many people actually stream it, that's one thing, but it's just gonna be hard for the homeowners of Pike County to really understand in that area. Really understand what's going on here. I like the idea of having examples.
yeah, I agree with that. Okay, I'm to the point of asking for a motion to close the public hearing. Unless someone has any other reason not to. Motion by Mark.
Second.
Second by Christie. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried 4-0. Okay, then, under new business, consideration of the confirmatory resolution modifying and confirming the declaratory resolution, which is in front of us. And I think as Lisa pointed out, it is modified to include modify the declaration. Yeah. parks, trail, public safety, lighting, wayfinding signage, and other recreational amenities. Which is a good plan. Good to add, in my opinion. Is there a motion to pass this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Eric. Second,
A second.
Mark. Any other discussion? Not all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried 4-0. Okay. That was the only thing on the agenda. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Eric, Christie, second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried 4-0.